Can an avoidant partner turn you into an anxious person? The answer is yes, absolutely. And we will go deeper into why in this video. So whether you're a person who already has anxious attachment, or whether you're someone who is just leaning towards anxiety sometimes, or whether you're someone who's actually been secure in your attachment style your entire life, being in a relationship with an avoidant can result in being more anxious as a person. Being with an avoidant partner means that there's an inconsistency in their emotional availability to you. And that in itself can put you in a situation where you don't feel fulfilled, where your needs aren't met, where you don't feel seen, where you feel like you always have to ask for validation or love or intimacy. And it's not always readily available for you, because the avoidant partner will open up and close down as they see fit. When it feels like it's too overwhelming for them, they're going to close down. When they feel open for connection, they'll maybe be open, but it might be a very small window. It might just be a couple of hours a month. So as the partner, you're left guessing. Do they care about me? Do they really want to connect with me? Are they in the relationship? Are they on their way out of the relationship? How do they feel today? Is it because of me that they're being distant? Is it because of themselves? And you can see how these kind of ruminating thoughts lean towards anxious attachment style. And even though it's a completely natural thing when you're with someone who isn't being communicative, when you're with someone who sometimes is hot and cold and you don't really know why, and you don't know if you did something wrong, so it leaves you guessing. And that's quite unfortunately. It takes a lot of security and a lot of understanding and a lot of strength to be with an avoidant partner. And it also really requires the avoidant partner to be able to work on themselves and have just a tiny bit of self-awareness when it comes to their attachment style. While this triggers a need for reassurance within you as the partner, another problem is that being with an avoidant can really trigger fear of abandonment. So if you're someone who has some level of an abandonment wound, okay, then it's very, very triggering for you to be with someone who has an avoidant attachment style. Because whenever something comes up, like a conflict, they'll shut down, they'll retrieve, they might even leave the room, and you'll feel abandoned, you'll feel not seen, you'll feel completely by yourself and anxious to work it out, to figure out what's going on inside their heads, and they're probably not going to share it with you. So if you have that type of a wound, this type of relationship can reopen that wound for you. And as a result, you can end up with a lot of unmet emotional needs, and you're going to need a really good circle of friends and family to help you meet those needs. And you're going to get really, really good at meeting some of these needs yourself and learning how to handle this avoidant person and really not take it personally. It's so easy to say, right? You're going to take it personally because it feels personal, but it really isn't about you much. It's about the avoidant partner's inability to be there for someone else, to be intimate. And it's about their fear of even being in a relationship and becoming enmeshed, and their lack of emotional intelligence. And that's why they'll run away from conflict. They'll shut down, and sometimes they'll even shut down even though there isn't a conflict. Maybe they just feel like they've been too vulnerable and open with you, and that was more than they could handle, and they're going to shut down. You'll barely hear from them for a week. You don't deserve this treatment, but I'm just saying this is how it can be in these avoidant relationships. Another thing is that you won't very often hear the avoidant partner give you reassurance, compliment you, be super warm and loving. They'll very rarely tell you that they love you. They'll very, very rarely tell you that you look good. They're just not really tuned into the fact that some people need this kind of validation because they themselves are so independent and so uncomfortable in that space that they really try not to go there with you. So if you do get a compliment from an avoidant partner, they really, really mean it. And they feel like they took a huge risk by even giving you this compliment. It's kind of crazy, right? For some of us, me for example, like I'm very giving with compliments. I love complimenting people, and my love language is definitely words of affirmation. It's difficult to understand how it can be so, but that's really how it feels for many avoidants. And again, being avoidant, it's kind of a spectrum. It's like you don't have to be that extreme, but you can have some avoidant tendencies. So it's like there's several degrees of how avoidant your avoidant partner can be. But if you do have some insecurities, then you can see how this behavior of lack of reassurance from a partner can really affect your negative self-talk. Maybe you start being super critical of yourself because you're never really validated in your relationship and you don't know if you're good enough. So it can kind of be a downward spiral in terms of your self-esteem to be with someone like that. You have to have a really solid sense of self and self-esteem. At the end of the day, a relationship with an avoidant can very easily create a pursuer distancer dynamic where you are the pursuer and the avoidant is the distancer. And the more you pursue, the more they distance. And you can see how this starts sounding like an anxious avoidant dynamic, right? So even if you weren't anxious before, because of all these reasons, you can see why you would start feeling anxious and maybe even develop an anxious attachment style in a relationship like this. And the more you pursue, the more frustrated you are, the more they're slipping away. And that's just really a very, very bad cycle to get into that unfortunately happens all the time in these types of relationships. Avoidant people are not bad people, but they need some help navigating their attachment style. They need some help with self-awareness, and they need to work with professionals to understand how they can be a great partner. I work with lots of avoidants who want to be great partners. And we work on how they can practice vulnerability, how they can practice being alert to their partner's needs, etc. So it's definitely possible, but it does require the avoidant partner to at least wanna work on themselves just a little bit. I hope this video was helpful. And if you liked it, please like the video below, subscribe to my channel, and I look forward to seeing you again soon.